Hello YouTube, this is APC. Today I'm making another video for you guys. This video is going to be a milestone in several ways. It's going to be an interactive video, and it's going to be my first time showing my face on camera, so I'm not quite used to this yet. Alright, so what it's going to be geared towards people who have a pretty good understanding of drag and drop icons, but they want to start in GML. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go through every single one of the drag and drop icons, and I'm going to tell you how to do that same action in GML. So before we get started with that, I'd like to thank Gopher Games for his program on Yo-Yo Games. Gopher Games is his Yo-Yo Games name if you want to look him up. And I used that program, I referenced it for every single one to check whether it lined up with what I would do. And for many of them, I had no idea how to do it in GML, and I completely relied on his program. So thank you, Gopher Games, for that. And then also there's a few things that I like to point out that they're like trends that come up very often in the drag and drop icons that are done the same way every single time for the code. First off, on the bottom of the drag and drop window after you've opened it up, there's often these toggle boxes that say relative and not. For relative, if it's a variable, you would put a plus or minus before the equal sign, depending on whether you want it to increase or decrease. If you don't have set relative, then you just put an equal sign and set it to the value. And in functions, there's a built-in variable that you're changing. So if you're changing speed, you'd say speed plus 5 if you want to make it relative. Or if you change the x value, you'd say x plus 5 or x minus 5, depending on how you want to change it. And then there's another toggle box often at the bottom of these windows that is the not button. Now again, there's a way to do this with variables and a way to do this with functions. In variables, you put a exclamation mark between the equal sign that would say not equal. And with functions, you put an exclamation mark before the function to show this function does not happen that way. Now this doesn't work with every function. It works with every variable. It works with every variable setting, but not every function. So if it doesn't have a not at the bottom of the window when you have a drag and drop, likely you get a glitch if you try to do that in code. Another thing, the drag and drop icons can be basically split into 3 shapes. There's the normal square gray ones that are most of them, and with those ones they require no modification from what I show you in the GML code. But there's another one, the second one, which they're purple octagons. Those are, they check something, they don't do anything. They almost always have check in the name when you hold your mouse over the octagon. So the way you modify that from what I show you is you put if, the code I show you, and then you would put whatever you want to show after that, because you're checking it. So by just typing down that function alone, you're not accomplishing anything. You'd either get a glitch or the game would look weird. Then the third and last one I wanted to talk about is the square ones that are sort of like a yellow bland color. Those ones must be done in the draw event. I'm pretty sure you have to do them in the draw event for the drag and drop icons as well, but for code you must do the draw event. If you try to use those functions that represent those square yellowish icons somewhere other than draw event, then it's not going to work. The code will just be completely ignored. Okay, so that's all that I had to tell you guys before we actually start. In order to start, I have this, you probably noticed that I have those icons over there. Simply click on the icon that you want. If you don't see the icon that you want, browse through the bars over there until you find it. So I hope this ends up being helpful. I'm not start editing it. I'm almost finished recording them, but I feel pretty hopeful about this. I think it'll work out nice. So enjoy. For the move fixed icon, type down motion set, and this requires 2 arguments. The first is your direction, and the second is your speed. You can do any speed you want. Direction must be between 0 and 360. Directions are multiples of 45. So if you want to go to the right, you go 0. If you want to go slanted upwards right, it'll be 45. Up is 90, and so on. If you want it to randomly choose direction, as you would if you clicked on multiple arrows, you type down choose, and then list the variables that you want to choose between. So, for example, this will make it choose between left, right, up, or down. For the move free icon, you'd use motion set, and this has two arguments. The first argument is the direction, so you can do anywhere between 0 and 360. The second argument is the speed, which you can do any speed there. For the move towards icon, you would use the function move towards point, and this has three arguments. The first argument is the x value that you want to move to. The second argument is the y value you want to move to, and the third argument is at what speed you want your object move towards that point. For the speed horizontal icon, you simply use the hspeed variable, which is a built-in variable, and set it equal to whatever you want the hspeed to be. For the speed vertical icon, you simply take the vspeed variable, which is a built-in variable, and set it equal to whatever speed you want it to be. For the set gravity variable, for the set gravity icon, you first take the gravity variable, set it equal to whatever you want to show the power of the gravity, and in order to show the direction of gravity, you take the variable gravity direction and set it equal to a number between 1 and 360, or between 0 and 360. If you want to go down, make it 270. For the reverse horizontal icon, you type down hspeed equals negative hspeed. This will make your horizontal direction go in the opposite direction. For the reverse vertical icon, type down vspeed equals negative vspeed. This switches the direction on the vertical axis. For the set friction icon, simply take the variable friction, which is a built-in variable, and set it to any value you want. For the jump to position icon, take your x variable and your y variable and set them both equal to the new value that you want them to have. For the jump to start icon, type down x equals x start and y equals y start. X start and y start are built-in variables that indicate the original x and y value of your object. For the jump to random icon, use the function move random. Now this function has two inputs. The first one is the h snap, the second one is the v snap. So it'll move to a random point that has an x value that's divisible by 32 and a y value that's divisible by 32 in this case. For the align to grid icon, you type down move snap, and this requires two arguments. The first argument is the horizontal snap, so I'm going to do 32, and the second argument is vertical snap, so I'm going to do 32 as well. This is the value that your x and y value must be multiples of. For the wrap screen icon, you would type down move wrap, and this requires three arguments. The first argument is a true-false value, saying whether or not you want the room to be wrapped horizontally. And the second one is a true-false value, whether you want the room to be wrapped vertically. The third value is not included in the icon, but this is how far outside the room you need to go in order for the room to be wrapped. So you might say something like 32, which is the default sprite width. For the move to contact icon, you can use one of two functions, depending if you mean contact only for solids or with all. So if it doesn't matter whether it's solid or not, you'd use move contact all. This is 2 arguments. Otherwise, you use move contact solid. So the contact will only be considered contact if it's against a solid. The 2 arguments for both these are the same, so I'll just explain them for contact all. The first argument is your direction. This can be anywhere between 0 and 360. If you want to go downwards, you need to do 270. The second one is the maximum distance. This is how far it'll travel before it stops. You want to go on until it stops, so an indefinite max distance, then you would put down a negative number. For the bounce icon, you would use one of 2 functions, depending on whether you wanted to bounce on against anything or against only solids. If you want to bounce against only solids, you could type down move bounce solid. This takes 1 argument. If you want to bounce against anything, type down move bounce all. Again, 1 argument. The argument for both these are the same, so I'll just do it for one of them. It's a true-false variable, depending on whether you want it to be advanced or not. If it's not advanced, then it'll treat anything bounced up against as either a vertical surface or horizontal surface. If you do with advanced on, then it can also be considered a slanted surface. For the set path icon, you would use the function path start, and this takes 4 arguments. The first is whichever path you have. If this path existed, it should turn yellow. The second is what you want the speed to be, which can be anything. And the third is what you want your end action to be. I'll explain this in more detail later. The fourth is whether you want it to be absolute or non-absolute. If it's absolute, then it'll go with whatever x value and y value are assigned in the path. If it's non-absolute, it'll add the x value and y value of the path to your current x or y value. So this can be expressed as a true or false variable. End action can be one of 4 things: 0, 1, 2, or 3. If you put down 0, then the object will stop the moment it reaches the end of the path. If you put down 1, the object will restart the path from the beginning and repeat it exactly the same as it did earlier. If you put down 2, it'll repeat the path, but starting from the position that it's currently at. If you put down 3, it'll repeat the path in reverse. For the end path icon, use the function path end. This requires no arguments. For the path position icon, use the variable path position. Then put down a number between 0 and 1. If you want to start halfway through the path, you would put down 0.5, 3/4, 0.75, and so forth and so forth. For path speed, for the path speed icon, you type down the variable path speed and set equal to whatever you want the speed of your path to be. For the step towards icon, you use the function mp linear step. This is 4 arguments. The first argument is x value you want to step towards. The second is the y value you want to step towards. The third is the third is the speed at which you want him to step. The fourth is whether you want it to stop for just solids or for anything. If you want to stop for anything, put down true. Otherwise, you put down false. For the step avoiding icon, use the function mp potential step, and this has 4 arguments. The first is the x value you want to move towards. The second is the y value you want to move towards. The third is the speed you want to use. And the fourth is whether you want it to stop against anything or just solids. If you want to, or check all. If you want to stop against anything, put down true. Otherwise, if you want to stop against just solids, put down false. For the create instance icon, you would type down instance create, and this requires 3 arguments. First of which is which object you want to create. The second is the x value you want to, the object to have, and the third is the y value. For the create moving icon, you would type down instance create, where the first value is the object you want to create, the second value is the x value of the object, and the third value is the y value of that object. Then you would type down, you would give that object a name by doing something like that. Giving the name would be obj1 and typing in equals. Type down width, obj1 motion set. The first of which is the direction. The second of which is the speed. For the icon create random, you would type down instance create. This has three arguments. The first of which is the object. So if you want to create a random object, you would type down choose and list your objects like so. And then in this case it would choose one of these 3 objects. Next is the x value you want this object to have, and the next one after that is the y value. For the change instance icon, you would type down instance change. This function has 2 arguments. The first of which is which object you want it to change into, and the second of which is whether you want perform events true or false. If it does perform events, then it'll perform the creation event of the object you change into, and it will perform the destroy event of the current object. If you put down false, it will not perform those events. For the destroy instance icon, you would type down instance destroy. This destroys the current instance. For the destroy at position icon, you would type down position destroy, and this has 2 arguments. First is the x value of the position that you want to destroy everything at, and the second is the y value. For the change sprite icon, you would type down action sprite set. This has 3 arguments. The first of which is sprite you want to change it to. The second of which is the image angle of this that you want Sprite to have, and the third of which is the image speed you want Sprite to have, so how quickly it flips through the images. For the transform sprite action, you would type down action sprite transform. This has 4 arguments. The first argument is the x scale you want it to have. Type down 1 if you don't want the x scale to remain unchanged. Second is the y scale you want the object to have. Press 1 if you want the y scale to remain unchanged. Next is the image angle that you want to have. This could be anywhere between 0 and 360. And the fourth one is what do you want to mirror it on. If you type down 0, it won't be mirrored at all. If you type down 1, it'll be mirrored along the horizontal axis. It will be mirrored horizontally. Type down 2, it will be mirrored vertically. And if you type down 3, it will be mirrored both horizontally and vertically. For the color sprite icon, you type down image blend equals whatever color you want. This could be C blue or C green, but the default is C white. Also, you can set the transparency, which is done by typing out image alpha, and you can set equal to anywhere between 0 and 1, 1 being completely visible and 0 being invisible. For the play sound icon, the function depends on whether you want it to loop or not. If you don't want it to loop, you type down sound play and then type down the index of the sound you want to play. But if you do want it to loop, you type down sound loop and you type down the index of the sound you want to loop. For the stop sound icon, you type down sound stop. This has one argument, and that would be the index of the sound that you want to stop. For the check sound icon, you would type down sound is playing and then the index of the sound that you want to check. For the previous room icon, you would type down room, go to previous. This requires no arguments. For the next room icon, you type down room, go to next. This also requires no arguments. For the restart room icon, you type down room, restart, and this requires no arguments. For the different room icon, you would type down room, go to, and for the argument, you would type down the room that you want to go to. For the check previous icon, you type down room, previous. For this, you can type down anything. I just use type down 0.
That was dumb.
Type down less than, more than, -1. This must be used in an if statement for it to work. And if there is a previous room, then it will return true. For the check next icon, you would type down room next. And you can type down anything in this. For this argument, I type down 0. Less than or more than -1. For the set alarm icon, you would type down alarm, brackets, and set it equal to how long you want the alarm to be. In this case, put down 5. And in between the brackets, you would put down the index of the alarm you're working with. So in this case, put down 0. For the sleep icon, you would use the function sleep, and in between the curved brackets, you'd put down how long you want to sleep for. This is in milliseconds. For the set timeline icon, there are 4 sections. First off is the timeline you want to set. So timeline index, and set equal to what you want the timeline to be. So it's I'll put on timeline 0. Next one is the position of the timeline. So that's timeline position, and set equal to what you want the position to be. This is in steps. The third one is whether you want to start immediately or not. If you want to start immediately, set timeline running equal to true. If you don't want to start immediately, set equal to false. And the last part is timeline loop. If you want to loop, set timeline loop equal to true. If you don't want to loop, set equal to false. For the timeline position icon, you type down timeline position and set it equal to what position you want timeline to have. For the timeline speed icon, you would type down timeline speed and set it equal to whatever you want the value of the speed to be. 1 is normal speed, 2 would be double normal speed, and 3 is triple, and so on. For the start timeline icon, you would type down use the variable timeline running and set equal to true. For the pause timeline icon, you would take the variable timeline running and set it equal to false. For the stop timeline icon, you would take the variable timeline running, set it equal to false, and then set the timeline position to 0 by typing out timeline position equals 0. For the display message icon, you would use the function show message, and in between, in these abbreviations, you would type down the message you want to show.
Did you see me rape Trinity though?
For the show info icon, you use the function show info, and that's it. This requires no arguments. For the splash text icon, you use the function splash show text.
What was Ash talking or Kelly talking about?
This has two arguments. The first is the file name of the text doc you want to show. Make sure you put the last part in there, .txt or .dat. Then for the second argument, it's how long you want it to show up. Put down 0 if you want it to show up indefinitely, but other than that, put down how long you want it to show up in milliseconds. For the splash image icon, you would use the function splash show image. This requires two arguments. The first of which is the image icon the image you want to show. Abbreviations, image, and make sure you put the picture file right on the back. For the second argument, it's how long you want it to show up in milliseconds, and put down 0 if you want it to show up for an indefinite amount of time. For the splash web page icon, you would use the function splash show web. For the first argument, you would type down the URL that you want to use, and for the second one, you would type down the length of time you want the URL to show up. If you want to show up for an indefinite amount of time, put down 0. For the splash video icon, you use the function splash show video. This requires two arguments. The first of which is the name of the video file you want it to use, and the second is how long you want the video file to show up. This is in milliseconds. Put down 0 if you want it to show up indefinitely. For the splash settings icon, there are 5 parts. In order to set the caption, you type down splash set caption, and here you put the name you want, the caption you want. For the game window you want, you would type down splash set main. Put down true, it'll show up in the game window. Put down false, it'll show up in a separate window. For the show close button, you'd use the function splash set close button. Put down true, the close button will be shown. Put down false, it won't be shown. For the escape key action, you type down splash set stop key. If you want to close on the escape key, put down true. If you don't, put down false. For the close on mouse click, you'd use the function splash set stop mouse. Put down true if you want to stop with the mouse. Put down false if you don't want to stop. For the restart game icon, you use the function game restart. For the end game icon, you use the function game end. For the save game icon, use the function game save, and between the brackets, you would type down the name you want for the game, or the name you want for the save. For the load game icon, you use the function game load, and in between the brackets, you put down the name you want for the name of the file you want to load. For the replace sprite icon, you use the function sprite replace. First, and this has 7 arguments. First argument is the sprite you want to replace. Second argument is the name of the file you want to replace sprite with.
I already got the little boots.
Third argument is the number of sub-images you want. Fourth argument is whether you want the background to be removed or not. So true if you want it to be removed, and false if you don't want it to be removed. For the fifth argument is whether you want the sprite to be smoothed or not. True for smooth, false for not smooth. The sixth argument is the X origin you want, normally 0, but if you change around the X origin you want to change it here. And the seventh and last is the Y origin. So set that whatever you want. The replace sound icon, you use the function sound replace. This has 4 arguments. The first is the sound you want to replace. The second is the name of the sound you want to replace it with. The third is type of sound you want it to be. 0 for a normal sound, 1 for a background sound, 2 for a 3D sound, and 3 for a multimedia player sound. And the third argument is whether you want it to preload or not. True if you do want it to preload, false if you don't. For the replace background icon, you use the function background replace. There's 4 arguments. First one is the background you want to replace. Second is the name of the background file that you want to replace it with. The third is whether you want the background of this background to be transparent or not. True if you do want it to be transparent, and false if you don't want it to be transparent. And the third is whether you want it to be smooth or not. True if you want it to be smooth, false if you don't want it to be smooth. For the check empty icon, there's basically 2 functions you can use, which depends on whether you want to check for non-solids or not check for non-solids. If you only want to check for solids, you'd use the function place free, and there are 2 arguments. The first is the x value you want to check for, and the second is the y value you want to check for. If you want to check for both solids and non-solids, you'd use the function place empty, and just like the previous one, there's 2 arguments. First one is the x value of the place you want to check for, and the second one is the y value. For the check collision icon, you can use 2 functions based on whether you want to check for non-solids or not. If you don't want to check for non-solids, use the function not place free, which works exactly the same as place free does, only with exclamation mark it does the opposite. First, the 16 is the x value of the place you want to check, and the second argument is the y value of the place you want to check. If you want to check for both solids and non-solids, use the function place empty. This has 2 arguments. First is the x value of the place you want to check. Second is the y value of the place you want to check. And this has exclamation mark in front of it, which makes it opposite. For the check object icon, you'd use the function place meeting, and this has 3 arguments. First of which is the x value of the place you want to check. Second is the y value of the place you want to check, and the third is the object on check for. For the test instant count, you'd use the function instance number, and in between the brackets you would put the object you want to count as. And then you would check if it's equal to some number. That would be the number you put here. For the test chance icon, you use the function floor, which rounds the number in between the brackets down, and then in between the brackets you put random. Then you would put whatever number you want to test chance of. So, like for instance 10, put out equals 1. So this will work once every 10 times, and you can change the amount of times it works. For the check question icon, you would use the function show question. In between the brackets, you put down the question you want to ask. For the test expression icon, you simply type down the variable you want to test. Note, this will only work with variables that are true-false variables, otherwise it won't work. The check mouse icon uses the function mouse check button. In between the brackets, you would put the button you want to check. The constants are MB none for no mouse button pressed, MB left for left mouse button pressed, MB right for right mouse button pressed, and MB middle for middle mouse button pressed. For the check grid icon, you use the function place snapped. There are two arguments. The first of which is the x value you want to check snap to, and the second one is the y value you want to check snap to. For the start block icon, you simply put down the pointy bracket that's facing to the right. For the else icon, you type down else. That's all. For the exit icon, you type down exit. For the end block icon, you type down the pointy bracket facing left. For the repeat icon, you would use the function repeat, and in between the brackets, put out the number of times you want it to repeat. For the call parent event icon, you use the function event inherited. I'm not going to explain the execute code icon. For the execute script icon, you would use the function script execute. In between the brackets, you first put down the script that you want to use, and for all the other arguments after that, you just put down arguments that are used in the script. The arguments in this function could go on indefinitely. For the comment icon, there are basically two ways you can do this in code. The first way is to press slash twice, and then you type whatever you want. But this can only be done in one line, because once you go to the next line, it goes back to normal. Or you can put slash and then a star, and you can type whatever you want. But now, when you go to the next line, it keeps going. And you need to do star slash again in order to end it. For the set variable icon, you would take the variable you want to set and type down equals and put it to the value you want to set it to. For the test variable icon, you would take the variable you want to test, press the equal sign, and type down the value you want to check. For the draw variable icon, you use the function draw text. Now this has three arguments. The first is x value at which you want to draw the text. Second is the y value at which you want to draw the text. And the third is what variable you want to draw. For the set score icon, you would type down score and set it equal to what you want the score to be. For the test score icon, you type down score, press equal, and then press the score you want to check. For the draw score icon, you use the function action draw score. It has three arguments, first of which is the x value where you want to draw the score. Second is the y value you want to draw the score at. And the third argument is the caption you want to go in front of the score. For the show high score icon, use the function Highscore show. In between the brackets, type down the new score that you want to add to the Highscore table. For the clear Highscore icon, you type down Highscore clear. This requires no arguments. For the set lives icon, you type down lives and set it equal to what you want the lives to be. For the test lives icon, you would type down lives, press the equal sign, then put down the value of lives you want to test. For the draw lives icon, you would use the function action draw life. First value is the x value you want to draw life at. Second is the y value you want to draw life at. And the third argument is the caption you want in front of the lives. For the draw life images icon, you would type down action draw life images. This has three arguments. First is which x value you want to be drawn at. Second is which y value you want to be drawn at. And the third is what sprite you want to draw for the images. For the set health icon, you would type down health, equal sign, and what you want the health to be. For the test health icon, you type down health, press the equal sign, and type down the value you want test to health. For the draw health icon, you use the function draw health bar. This has 11 arguments. The first argument is x value of the top left corner. The second argument is the y value of the top left corner. The third argument is the x value of the bottom right corner. The fourth argument is the y value of the bottom right corner. The fifth argument is the amount of health you want to show, or just type down health, which as you will in most cases, or the variable you want to show. The sixth argument is the background color you want for the health bar. The seventh argument is the color you want the health bar to have when it's at low health. The eighth argument is the color you want the health bar to have when it's at high health. Ninth argument is what direction you want the health to go in as it depletes. If you put down 0, go from right to left. Put down 1, it'll go from left to right. Put down 2, it'll go from bottom to top. If you put down 3, it'll go from top to bottom. The 10th argument is whether you want the background of the health bar to be shown. So true if you want it to be shown, false if you don't want it to be shown. The 11th argument is whether you want the border to be shown or not. So true if you want it to be shown, false if you don't want it to be shown. For the score caption icon, there are 6 variables you're setting. The first which is show score. So equal true if you want score to be shown, false if you don't want score to be shown. Next one is caption score. Type down the caption you want for the score. Third one is show lives. Put down true if you want lives to be shown. Put down false if you don't want it to be shown. Fourth one is caption lives. And for that, put down what caps you want for the lives. The fifth one is whether you want show health. True if you want the health to be shown. False if you don't want the health to be shown. The sixth one is caption health, and for this put down the caption you want the health to have. For create part system, you first choose the name of your system, and it's equal to part system create. Then for the depth, you'd say part system depth. This has 2 arguments. The first of which is the system you're referring to, and the second which is depth you want to give it. For the destroy part system icon, part system destroy. In parentheses, you put the name of the system you want to destroy. For the clear part system icon, use the function part system clear. And between parentheses, you put the name of the system that you want to clear. For the create particle icon, you'd first set name that you want for the particle. So equal to part type create. In order to set the shape of the particle, you'd put on part type shape. This has 2 arguments. First of which is the name of the part type. Second of which is what shape you want. You'd use constants for this. So for instance, pt shape. And here you can view all the different shapes you can use. If you want to use a sprite, you use a part type sprite. First 2 arguments. First of which is what particle type you're using. The second of which is which sprite you want to use. In order to set the size of the particle, you type in part type size. This has 5 arguments. The first is the name of the particle type. And the second is the minimum size that you want. The third is the maximum size that you want. The fourth is the increase or decrease you want in the size every step. And the fifth is the wiggle, which isn't covered in the D&D icon, but it's basically how much do you want to randomly change. For the particle color icon, use the function part type color 2. This has 3 arguments. First is which particle you're referring to. Second is the color you want to start out with. And the third is the color you want to end up with. Then in order to set the transparency, type part type alpha 2. This has 3 arguments. The first is what particle you're referring to. The second is how much transparency you want to start out with, 1 to the maximum. And then the last one is how much transparency you want to end up with. For the particle life icon, use the function part type life. First argument is what particle you're referring to. Second argument is what you want the minimum life in steps to be. And the third is what you want the maximum life in steps to be. For the particle speed icon, use the function part type speed. It has 5 arguments. The first is which particle you're referring to. The second is the minimum speed you want the particle to have. The third is the maximum speed you want the particle to have. The fourth is how much you want the speed to increase or decrease. And the fifth is how much you want the speed to randomly change. For the direction, use the function part type direction. This has 5 arguments. First is which particle you're referring to. Second is the minimum direction. Third is the maximum direction. Fourth is how much you want the direction to increase or decrease. And the fifth is how much you want the direction to randomly change. The drag and drop icon covers friction, but in order to cover friction in code, you need to use something that's called a deflector. And I'm not going to explain that right now. If you want to learn about it, look at my particle series. For the particle gravity icon, use the function part type gravity. This has 3 arguments. The first is which particle you're referring to. The second is the amount of gravity you want it to have. And the third is what direction you want the gravity to go into. For the particle secondary icon, use the function part type step. The first argument is which particle you're referring to. The second argument is how often this should be done per step. And the third argument is what particle should be made at each step. For the depth, and part type depth, put down which particle you're referring to, how many of the other particle want to be made, and name the other particle. For the create emitter icon, you would first type down the name you want the emitter to have, set it equal to part emitter create, and then in the parentheses put down which system you want the emitter to belong to. For the destroy emitter icon, use function part emitter destroy. This requires 2 arguments. The first is which system this emitter belongs to. The second is the name of the emitter you want to destroy. For the burst from emitter icon, use function part emitter burst. This requires 4 arguments. First, what system the emitter belongs to. The second is the name of the emitter. The third is the particle you want the emitter to burst. And the fourth is how many particles you want to create. If it's negative, like -3, it'll go once every 3 steps. If it's at 3, it'll go 3 every other step. 3 every step. For the stream from emitter icon, use the function part emitter stream. This has 4 arguments. The first is what system the emitter belongs to. The second is the name of the emitter. The third is what particle type you want the emitter to stream. And the fourth is how many particles you want to stream every second. If it's a negative number, it'll go like -2, it'll go every other second. For the play CD icon, use the function CD play. This has 2 arguments. The first is what track needs to start on. Second is which track needs to end on. For the stop CD icon, use function CD stop. No arguments. For the pause CD icon, use function CD pause. This has no arguments. For the resume CD icon, use function CD resume. This requires no arguments. For the check CD icon, use function CD present. For the check CD playing icon, use function CD playing. For the set cursor icon, use function cursor sprite. So equal to what sprite you want for the cursor. For making the cursor visible or not, I don't think there's a way to do it in code. But if you want it to remain invisible or visible for the whole game, you click on global game settings. You know you can't see it very well right here, but global game settings. And then you would, under graphics, you would select display cursor, and then you can toggle that. For the draw sprite icon, you use the function draw sprite. This has 4 arguments. First of which is the sprite you want to use. If you just want to use sprite that's set with the object, set on sprite index. Next was what subimage you want to use of the sprite. If you just want to use the same subimage as whatever your object has, type an image index. Then for x sprite, you type an x, and for the y value sprite, type an y. For the draw background icon, use function draw background. This has 3 arguments. The first, which is the back you want to use. Second is the x value you want the back to have, and the third is the y value you want the background to have. For the draw text icon, you would use the function draw text. 3 arguments. First of which is what you want the x value of the text to be. Second, which is what you want the y value of the text to be. And the third is what you want the text to be. So just put whatever. It's best put in quotations like this, because then it will be registered as text and not a variable. For the draw scaled text icon, use the function draw text transformed. This has 6 arguments. First argument is the x value you want to be drawn at. Second argument is the y value you want to be drawn at. The third argument is what text you want to be drawn. Make sure this is in quotations, otherwise it will not work. For the fourth argument, you put down what x scale you want to have. So 0.5 is scrunched up to half the width it would normally have. 2 would be double the width it would normally have, and 1 is normal the width. The fifth argument is the y scale you want to have. This is pretty much exactly as the x scale. Put down 0.5, you want it to be scrunched up to half the height they want that it would normally have. 2 if you want to have double height normally have, and 1 if you want to have normal. And you can put any value, and it'll just work accordingly. The sixth and final argument is what angle you want to have. So you'd simply put down 0 if you want to be normal. Put down 180 if you want to be upside down. 90 means it makes it straight up, and anything between that. 270 is straight up and upside at the same time. And so there you have it. For the draw rectangle icon, use the function draw rectangle. There are 5 arguments for this one. First of which is we want the x value to be of the top left corner of the rectangle. Second is we want the y value to be of the top left corner of the rectangle. Third is we want the x value to be of the bottom right corner of the rectangle. And fourth is we want the y value to be of the bottom right corner of the rectangle. The next and fifth one is a true false thing. Put down false, then it will be a filled rectangle. You put down true, then it will be only an outline of a rectangle. For the horizontal gradient icon, use the function draw rectangle color. This has 9 arguments. First argument is the x value of the top left corner of the rectangle. Second argument is the y value of the top left corner of the rectangle. The third argument is the x value of the bottom right corner of the rectangle. And the fourth argument is the y value of the bottom right corner of the rectangle. The fifth argument is the color you want for the top left corner of the rectangle. So you can say green. Next is the color you want for the top right corner of the rectangle. Our seventh argument is the color you want for the bottom right corner of the rectangle. And the eighth argument is the color you want for the bottom left corner of the rectangle. The final ninth argument is whether you want the rectangle to be filled or not. Put down true if you want it to be an outline, put down false if you want it to be filled. If you want it to be a horizontal gradient, make this color and this color the same, and this color and this color the same. Draw a rectangle color. This has 9 arguments. First argument is the x value of the top left corner of the rectangle. Second argument is the y value of the top left corner of the rectangle. The third argument is the x value of the bottom right corner of the rectangle. And the fourth argument is the y value of the bottom right corner of the rectangle. The fifth argument is the color you want for the top left corner of the rectangle. So you can say green. Next is the color you want for the top right corner of the rectangle. Our seventh argument is the color you want for the bottom right corner of the rectangle. And the eighth argument is the color you want for the bottom left corner of the rectangle. The final ninth argument is whether you want the rectangle to be filled or not. Put down true if you want it to be an outline, put down false if you want it to be filled. If you want it to be a vertical gradient, make this color and this color the same, and also this color and this color the same. For the draw ellipse icon, you'd use the function draw ellipse. This function has 5 arguments. The first of which is the x value of the left side of the ellipse. Second is the y value of the top of the ellipse. Third is the x value of the bottom of the ellipse, or the x value of the right side of the ellipse. And the fourth is the y value of the bottom of the ellipse. The last one is a true-false thing. Put down false, it will be a filled ellipse. Put down true, it'll be an outline of an ellipse. For the gradient ellipse icon, use the function draw ellipse color. This has 7 arguments. First argument is the x value of the leftmost part of the ellipse. Second argument is the y value of the topmost part of the ellipse. Third is the y value of the x value of the most right side of the ellipse. And fourth is the y value of the bottom of the ellipse. Fifth is the color you want on the inside of the ellipse. And sixth is the color you want it change into on the outside of the ellipse. Seventh is a true-false variable. If you put down false, it'll be a filled ellipse. If you put down true, it will be an outline of an ellipse. For the draw line icon, use the function draw line. This has 4 arguments. First argument is the x value of the first point in the line. Second is the y value of the first point in the line. Third is x value of the end of the line. And the fourth is the y value of the end of the line. For the draw arrow icon, use the function draw arrow. This has 5 arguments. First of which is the x value of the first point of the arrow, where the arrow starts. Second is the y value of the point where the arrow starts. Third is the y value of the point where the arrow. Third is the x value of the point where the arrow ends. And fourth is the y value of the point where the arrow ends. The fifth argument is how big you want the arrow at the end to be. For the set color icon, use the function draw set color, and in between parentheses you put down what color you want to use. For the set font icon, use the function draw set font, and in between the parentheses you type down the name of the font that you want to use. For the set full screen icon, use the function window set full screen, put down true. If you want to be full screen, put down false. You don't want to be full screen. For the take snapshot icon, use the function screen save. In between the parentheses you put down the file name you want the icon to have. So screen.png. For the create effect icon, use the function effect create. If you want to be above the rest of the game, type down above. If you want to be below, type down below. This has 5 arguments. First of which is which effect you want to use. In order to see the effects, you type on EF underscore, and you can browse the effects like so, and choose an effect you like. Second argument is the X value of the effect. Third is the Y value of the effect. Fourth is how big you want the effect to be. And fifth is what color you want the effect to have.